Unless otherwise informed, please use the front entrance to gain access and leave the site. You may be asked to sign in and out at the front entrance as well. Personal vehicles shall be parked in the parking lot. Parking in unauthorized areas may disrupt daily plant operations and therefore is not permitted. As a contract employee, there are several different types of hazards that you must be aware of while you walk around and work at this location. An energy from waste facility has many potential hazards associated with plant process systems, ash residue, heavy equipment operations, and chemical treatment systems. Rotating machinery such as pumps and conveyors are other sources of possible hazards. All near misses, accidents, and incidents must be reported to your contact immediately. Our first objective will be to assure that proper care is provided, then to determine the cause, so corrective actions may be applied. Our operations personnel often inspect the job site assigned to contract workers. You can expect that your site will be inspected. This job inspection is for your safety and ours, and ensures that we are communicating properly. When work is complete, you should inform your contact to review the work and any equipment testing requirements. If the test is satisfactory, then cleanup may begin. All equipment components must be reinstalled, especially guards and safety devices. As part of our total safety policy, Covanta personnel will remind you of deficient practices. Continued violations of these and/or any other safety rules may result in suspension or ejection from one or all Covanta sites. Covanta also uses a contractor violation notification form to notify and document contractor work violations. Poor housekeeping is the cause of many serious accidents. The work area should be maintained throughout the job, cleaned up throughout the job, and cleaned up completely when work is finished. Before any work can occur, your company contact will determine if a clearance and/or lockout is needed. Also, what PPE will be required in addition to the basic PPE. This process will be further explained later. Basic PPE is an ANSI-approved hard hat, safety glasses, steel-toe work boots, hearing protection, and a long-sleeve shirt. All clothing should be made of cotton or be fire-resistant. Basic PPE must be worn in virtually all areas of the facility. Hard hats must be worn with the bill facing forward unless they are being used for welding and are specifically designed to be used in such a manner. Hearing protection comes in many different styles, and they are available from your management. Covanta also has disposable earplugs on hand for your use. Fall protection is required whenever anyone must come within 6 feet of a drop-off. In general non-construction work, all walking working surfaces must protect against a fall above 4 feet, or in those cases where fall protection is required. Thus, all personnel must be protected when exposed to unprotected sides or edges of surfaces that present a falling hazard of 4 feet or more to a lower level. Working off ladders may also require the use of fall protection based on job task. Harnesses should be worn properly. Tie-off points should have at least 5,000 pounds anchorage strength. As you can see, there are hazardous situations all around you. So whether you are here for a day or a month, these hazards pose a threat to you unless you understand and follow our safe work rules. Any other type of protective equipment required will be specified during pre-job discussions. The contractor should be prepared to supply safety equipment such as safety harnesses and lanyards if needed. Whenever you are working around potential sources of unexpected energy releases, OSHA requires that all personnel are protected by a lockout-tagout procedure. This procedure must prevent the accidental or unexpected startup, operation, or energization of equipment or the release of stored energy. Covanta uses a clearance and lockout procedure to control energy and to achieve a safe work environment. Let's take a closer look. First, the contract employee must request a clearance from a Covanta employee. The Covanta employee will act as the requester. At this time, the exact scope of work is discussed. The Covanta employee, the requester, then submits a request in writing to the Clearance Locking Authority, also known as the CLA. The requester will specify in detail the equipment or system to be cleared, the scope of work to be performed under the clearance, the starting time and date, the estimated duration of the clearance, and the name of the requester. The CLA will determine the complete set of isolation points required to ensure full lockout of the equipment to be worked on. Each isolation point will be listed on the work clearance permit and assigned a tag number. The system will then be shut down and all associated valves, breakers, or any other energy isolating device will be secured, locked, and/or tagged. A set of designated key-to-like locks will be used. The key for these locks is returned to the CLA, who verifies that all isolation points have been correctly locked and tagged and that the system is completely de-energized. Once proper and complete lockout and tagout has been implemented and verified, the CLA will place the key in the clearance key box or a field remote lockbox. The CLA and requester will then place their locks on the box. Each contract worker must place his own personal lock on this box. Locks must be labeled or numbered and clearly identifiable to each worker. The management of your company has been informed of these requirements, and they should supply you with locks as needed. If you have any questions, discuss them with your maintenance contact, shift supervisor, or Covanta contact immediately. If you are going to be working in a confined space, your Covanta contact will thoroughly review the space you'll be entering, as well as the safety requirements before the confined space permit is issued. Entries into confined spaces have specific requirements depending on how the individual space is classified. All spaces at this facility have been identified and classified according to associated hazards. A confined space is defined as an enclosed space in which all of the following conditions exist. Adequate space so that an employee can bodily enter. A space not designed for continuous employee occupancy and limited or restricted means of entry or exit from the space. Confined spaces are further classified as permit required, non-permit required, and alternate. Let's take a closer look at each one. A permit-required confined space means that the space has one or more of the following characteristics. The potential to contain a hazardous atmosphere, contains a material with the potential for engulfment of an entrant, has an internal configuration which may cause an entrant to be trapped by inwardly converging walls or a floor which slopes downward, contains any other recognized serious safety or health hazard like falling debris, or lacks adequate ventilation to maintain an oxygen concentration between 19.5 and 23.5%. Prior to entering a permit-required confined space, the air both inside and out must be checked for oxygen levels and potential harmful atmospheric contaminants. Like all confined spaces, atmospheric monitoring must be periodic and frequent whenever workers are occupying the space and there is a potential for hazard, such as entrapment, fall hazards, or air contaminants. An attendant must remain outside the space and maintain a sign-in sheet of all those inside the designated space. Please be sure to let the attendant know when you enter the space and check out with the attendant at the same point when you leave the space. A non-permit confined space means that a confined space has the characteristics of a permit-required confined space, but does not contain or have the potential to contain any physical or atmospheric hazards capable of causing death or serious physical harm. In order for a confined space to be classified as non-permit, there must be an extremely low likelihood of encountering any condition which poses a threat of loss of life, may result in immediate or irreversible severe health effects, may result in incapacitation that would in any way impede escape from the space, or an employee could be engulfed or trapped in the space. Entering a non-permit required confined space will require checking the atmosphere both inside and outside the space prior to entry. A confined space may be classified as alternate as long as the following conditions are met and maintained. The only hazard posed is an actual or potential hazardous atmosphere. Continuous forced air ventilation alone is sufficient to assure that the space is safe for entry. Monitoring and inspection data are available that show the space is maintained safe for entry through forced air ventilation alone. To enter an alternate confined space, there must be a completed confined space entry permit and completed hazard analysis form. Additionally, the two-man rule is in effect. Never work alone in a confined space, even if alternate procedures are in place. Hot work at Covanta facilities requires a hot work permit. Hot work includes welding, cutting with a torch or an arc, open flames, chipping, grinding, or any other work that may cause a fire. All oxygen acetylene setups must have flash arresters installed at the regulator at a minimum. A fire watch is assigned to all hot work whenever there is a potential for sparks to ignite surrounding combustibles or workers. Fire blankets should be used to minimize or reduce the possibility of sparks leaving the immediate work area. When using a grinder, you must wear a face shield. All grinders must be equipped with guards and with a handle. Handles can be removed to get into tight spaces only after you have received permission from your Covanta contact. All scaffolding must be inspected before any work can begin. When the inspection is complete and the scaffold is deemed safe, a tag will be applied. Scaffolding may not be altered without the approval of the Covanta competent person. Please know who the scaffold person is when you are working at a Covanta location, and be sure to notify the competent person prior to any scaffold alteration. Depending on the scope of the alteration, the scaffold may have to be re-inspected. There are several other safety issues we would like you to be aware of while you work at this facility. Caution or danger tape is used to indicate an area that has been determined to be potentially hazardous. Yellow caution tape is used to highlight an area. A tag must be attached to advise of the specific hazard. You may proceed through the caution tape after you are aware of the hazard and determine it is safe to proceed. Red danger tape is used to restrict access to everyone except those who are assigned to that specific job. Like caution tape, it must also be tagged with the hazards listed. Ash, the product of combustion of many components of municipal waste, contains small amounts of lead. If you were to handle or be exposed to ash, then you need to be informed of OSHA standards and requirements that regulate the control of such heavy metals as lead, cadmium, and hexavalent chromium. According to the standards, sampling has been performed at facilities throughout Covanta. Workplace air quality test results to date have shown the following precautions must be taken when working with or near ash. These precautions will require you to wear a full-face respirator inside all Covanta boilers, regardless of the nature of the work going on there. You will also be expected to be clean-shaven. Clean shaven will be defined as having shaved the morning you reported to work. You must have a fit test record that shows you have been fitted to wear your respirator. To avoid inhalation or ingestion, do not eat or drink in the plant except in designated areas. Wear protective coveralls to prevent work clothes from becoming contaminated with ash. Remove them and wash hands thoroughly before taking a break to eat or drink. If you are performing boiler outage work, there are some additional safety requirements that you must be aware of and follow. Atmospheric monitoring has indicated exposure levels exceed OSHA permissible exposure limits for heavy metals, such as lead and cadmium, inside the boiler during boiler outage work. Housekeeping is an important part of any safety program. Your work area should be kept clean and clear of any debris that may become a hazard. All welding leads, power cords, and hoses should be run overhead to prevent trip hazards. Gas cylinders should be secured to prevent them from being accidentally tipped over. A fire blanket should be placed over the bottles to prevent sparks from igniting possible leaking fittings. Caps must be in place when the bottle is not in use to protect the cylinder valve. Chain falls and come-alongs must have safety latches. Chicago fittings must be secured with a pin. High-pressure hoses must have whip checks to prevent separation. Use of Covanta forklifts is restricted to qualified personnel only. Your contact will explain these qualifications. In the unlikely event of a plant emergency, an alarm will sound followed by instructions over the public address system explaining what type of an emergency is in progress. Your contact will inform you of the location of evacuation meeting places. If you are working next to or on chemical handling equipment, you will be informed of specific safety requirements during the pre-job discussion. All safety data sheets are available in the control room. Additionally, if you are working with chemicals, lubricants, or solvents, there must be an SDS on site for each of these materials. All of our sites have standard procedures regarding hazardous material spills. To prevent spills, you must take special care when transporting or handling these materials and have cleanup kit material available. If a spill should occur, contact the control room immediately. If at any time during your stay here you have any questions regarding our procedures, your work site, or the scope of work, do not hesitate to ask your contact. At Covanta, safety is our #1 priority, and we are concerned for your personal safety. This program is just a part of our efforts to ensure the safety of everyone working here at Covanta, and your management is committed to following these and all other work rules. A brief discussion to cover facility-specific safety information will be held prior to you starting your assigned job. Please ask any questions now or at any time.